Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles now, we're going to go through my list of the top 5 Brian Johnson replacements if the Eagles were to move on from their offensive coordinator. Some context here. On Wednesday, Nick Sirianni did say that he should be getting the blame for the Eagles' offense because it is his offense at the end of the day, and people should not be directing their blame toward Brian Johnson. But this Eagles' offense has been way too inconsistent, and they've been Jekyll and Hyde all throughout this year, and I think both parties are to blame. And if the Eagles do want to switch things up a little bit after the year to replace Brian Johnson, I feel pretty good about these 5 candidates. Before we take a look at my list, make sure you join us for our Christmas watch party. Philadelphia Eagles hosting the New York Giants. We'll have some Super Chat giveaways, raffle items. We'll do a Venmo 50-50 raffle, live play-by-play, audience interaction. We'll be sharing some drinks on game day as well because it's the best place to experience Eagles games outside of being at the actual game. Our live show begins with an hour pregame show around 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, you look at the Eagles' offensive rankings this year, and it's pretty wild that the Eagles are in this spot. They are 10-4. They've lost 3 games in a row. The sky is falling in Philadelphia, but this offense has been the issue over the last 3 weeks, in my opinion, because this Eagles organization considers itself an offensive run organization. They have so many dogs on the offensive side of the football, and during this 3-game losing streak, they haven't surpassed 20 points in any of the previous 3 matchups. That is a problem. Now, up to this point, going into Week 16, it's not all that bad, but the eye test tells you that something is missing with this Eagles offensive unit. Despite them being 7th in points per game, 9th in yards per game, 3rd on third down conversion percentage, 9th in red zone scoring percentage, and 7th in touchdowns per game. I do want to put some of the blame on the players because the Eagles have shown the ability to move the football consistently, but the players have coughed it up, which has taken points off of the scoreboard and halted this Eagles offensive momentum. But I think from a play calling standpoint, Brian Johnson hasn't had a great feel for the game, and I wonder if Philadelphia is going to try to bring in a fresh set of eyes after this year. I highly doubt that they're going to make another coordinator change in season. So with that, my Brian Johnson replacements. We start off with a very viable option and one that makes a lot of sense for plenty of reasons, and that is Frank Reich, the former Carolina Panthers and Indianapolis head coach. Frank Reich was with the Eagles, and he was their offensive coordinator during the 2017 Super Bowl run. As we know, Doug Peterson was the play caller throughout his tenure, but Frank Reich was credited with game planning, with play designs, creativity, and elevating the play of Carson Wentz in 2017 when he would have won MVP if he didn't shred his knee, and he made a pretty massive jump from 2016 to 2017. Frank Reich has a lot of experience in this league as a quarterback's coach, as an offensive coordinator, and as a head coach most recently with the Panthers and the Colts, and there's that level of familiarity, and there's a great relationship between Sirianni and Reich, because Sirianni was the Colts offensive coordinator before he got hired away by Philadelphia to become the head coach. My issues with Reich here, I'm not sure that if you were to hire him, he brings anything new to the Eagles offense. And I'm not sure that he's going to inject a lot of creativity, and I'm not sure that he is really up to standard with some of the modern nuances of what I like offenses to be in the world of 2023 football. And I think one of the issues with this Eagles offense right now, they might need an outside voice and a fresh perspective because right now they simply don't have that. Nick Sirianni, this is his offense. He has groomed Brian Johnson, who's come up from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator, and Sirianni brought him in here in 2021, poaching him from Florida when Sirianni took the job. Shane Steichen was with this team for a little while, and a lot of Nick Sirianni's offensive philosophies are adopted from Frank Reich. And Reich's offense with Carolina, kind of like what the Eagles' offense is right now, vanilla and bad. So in summary, some of the issues that we have right now with this Eagles offense might still remain. And I think I might try to side with a younger type of presence to become the Eagles' new offensive coordinator. Now, I know that I was talking about the familiarity with the system and bring in an outside voice. Kevin Patullo would not be categorized as an outside voice. He has been with this team since Nick Sirianni came here. He is currently Philadelphia's pass game coordinator, but he could bring a fresh set of ideas as a younger guy who sees the game a little bit differently. He is in his third year as the Eagles pass game coordinator. He also elevated this year in 2023 to associate head coach. He helped oversee a great passing attack last year, which was one of the best in franchise history and one of the best in the NFL, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both setting records. And he has played a role in the development of Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. Patullo's been coaching for a really long time. 2003 is when he got his coaching start. And he's been a coach at the college level, mostly at the NFL level with a couple of different teams, Kansas City Chiefs, Indianapolis Colts, now Philadelphia. He was with Indy as a pass game specialist and wide receiver coach. He is looked at right now in league circles as an up-and-coming offensive mind who other organizations are probably going to look at to maybe hire or bring in for an interview for their vacant offensive coordinator roles. A young mind, once again, in summary, could bring fresh ideas to this Philadelphia Eagles offense. And that right now is what I think the Eagles need. Now, this is today's poll question. It is our pinned comment, so I want you to scroll on down and let your voices be heard. You want Brian Johnson to G for go or S for stay? Let me know down in the comments section. A popular name among Eagles fans is Joe Brady, the current Bills offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. He still has not had the interim tag removed after taking over for Ken Dorsey, who was the Bills offensive coordinator before Joe Brady took over. He was fired because the Bills got off to such a slow start this year. Joe Brady rose to fame with LSU back in 2019 as the Tigers pass game coordinator when Joe Burrow was the quarterback, and LSU put together one of the best college football seasons of all time. They blew so many teams out en route to the national championship, and their offense was unstoppable. He was so good and so revered as LSU's pass game coordinator, he was looked at as the young up-and-coming mind across league circles. The Eagles actually brought him in for a head coaching interview a couple of years ago. He was hired by Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers to be their OC and play caller in 2020. But I think that he was elevated a little bit too soon in making that jump from the college ranks to the NFL. He was fired a couple of years in, and then he joined the Bills as their quarterbacks coach in 2022. This year took over for Ken Dorsey as the Bills OC midway through the year, and he has brought creativity, most importantly, variety to the Bills offense. A big reason why Buffalo moved off of Ken Dorsey, used to be the quarterback back in the day alongside Willis McGahee for those great Miami teams in the early 2000s, because the Bills had become way too heavy of a passing team, and they weren't mixing in the run. So Joe Brady has kind of brought good versatility to this Philadelphia Eagles, to the Buffalo Bills offense, and that variety has really helped them out to the point where the Buffalo Bills were able to run all over the Dallas Cowboys last week, and it was so impressive, their offensive performance, where Josh Allen barely had to throw the football at all in that dominant showing for Buffalo as they beat the brakes off of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we have some more candidates to get to, but we do want to mention our sponsor for today's show, and that is Game Time. If you're looking for last-minute tickets to a sporting event, a comedy show, a concert, a theater event, this is the only app that you should download. Free download, and if you use our code EaglesChat, you get $20 off. With Game Time, you're guaranteed to get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Why I really like using this app, I can trust it. They don't hit you with some of those crazy fees that other ticketing apps do. And when you purchase your tickets or look into some of your tickets, you get to see the vantage point from where you'll be sitting and the price point of those tickets. And there are still tickets available for Eagles-Giants on Christmas if you're trying to make a loved one happy, and you'll be able to save money in the process. Check out their flash deals as well, because these flash deals allow you to get in on some of these really good seats and save some money once again. So $20 off using the code EaglesChat. We're going to put this link for a free download in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. Couple of more candidates to get to. Next up, another external option, Klay Kubiak, who currently is the San Francisco 49ers assistant quarterbacks coach. I know a lot of you don't like the San Francisco 49ers, but you know what I care about? Good offensive football, efficient offensive football, balanced offensive football, and a creative mind that can help lead to a lot of explosive plays. I also want a candidate who's able to come up under some of the more formative and creative offensive minds in the game. And that's what Klay Kubiak has been able to do coming up under head coach Kyle Shanahan for San Francisco. Kubiak, in his second year as the Niners assistant quarterbacks coach, he's learned under Shanahan for the last 3 years. He does have head coaching experience. He was the head coach of Strake Jesuit College Preparatory School in Houston, Texas. What I also like is how he sees the game of football and how he can see it from both sides of the football. He has that offensive background, but with San Francisco previously, he was also a defensive quality control coach. So I think that actually helps you as an offensive mind because you can understand what the defense is trying to do and how you can pick apart that defense. He's helped oversee the development of Brock Purdy, who's gone from Mr. Irrelevant to the leading MVP candidate going into Week 16. And the last name probably sounds familiar. He is the son of longtime coach Gary Kubiak. Kyle Shanahan has a pretty impressive coaching tree. Robert Saleh with the New York Jets, Mike McDaniel with the Miami Dolphins. I think if you're Philadelphia and you want to go with an external option, you look at somebody who's coming up under Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan tree. You look at that Kyle Shanahan tree to see who's coming up under him, like a Kubiak. You look at a Sean McVay type of option, Matt LaFleur, some of the modern type of architects of offensive football that we see littered across the NFL with a lot of pre-snap motion to try to gain an edge and exploit some mismatches and creativity with the route tree and the Philadelphia Eagles running game to rely on this great Eagles offensive line. Clint Kubiak, who is the brother of Klay, is also an option. He right now is the Niners pass game specialist and has a lot of high-level coaching experience. He was formerly the Denver Broncos quarterbacks coach. Speaking of somebody who's come up under Sean McVay, let's get to Zack Robinson here, who is the Rams quarterbacks coach. Sneakily, Los Angeles Rams making a little bit of a run at the NFL playoffs, and if they get in, they're a really scary team. And I like the nuances of that Rams offense under Sean McVay. I like the intricacies of it. Robinson has been with the Rams for the last 5 years, so he's been with that organization for a little while. He's been their quarterbacks coach as well as their pass game coordinator, and the NFL is littered with Shanahan and McVay influence. And there are reasons for that because their offenses are some of the best in the league, whereas right now, this Eagles offense is a little bit of a stale product. Interesting story with Zack Robinson. Before getting his coaching start with the Rams, he was actually a quarterback evaluator for Pro Football Focus. So Howie Roseman is an analytically driven guy. The Eagles are an analytically driven organization, so they might like that background for Zack Robinson as well. And what do you know? Here in 2023, this Rams offense has been good yet again. So those are my 5 as of right now, and you could probably have this list at 10 to 15. We'll continue to expand on this list if we need to. Replacements to take over for Brian Johnson if the Eagles were to move on. One more question for the audience that I want you to answer. Who would you hire to replace Brian Johnson? You could look at a name like Deuce Staley. You could look at some other names across the National Football League. Drop those names down below right now.